Hi again. Welcome back to this. Finally making progress through this book. I don't know, I feel like I was just like caught in the middle of this endless wasteland of a story for like forever. Anyway, now I'm on chapter 13 and Anna is back in her apartment and Layla's there and let's see what happens. Okay, right off, here's some critique for the writing. She spends technically four paragraphs describing like these minute little details of how her fear is like manifesting in her body, which is completely unnecessary. Pick a few things. Pick like your heart starts beating rapidly, your breath gets shallow. That's the only really cue that the reader really needs to be like, okay, this is a scary situation, this character is scared, we get it, now let's move on with the narrative. Okay, she also keeps referring to her scalp tightening in fear, which is like, I guess, yeah, if you're scared, your scalp like prickles, but I've never heard it described that way, and it's just an odd image for me. I don't know, it's a little disturbing, honestly. Oh my god, there's so many things happening in this scene that I could talk about. Like, so Layla is one of Christian's exes, and she is mentally disturbed in some way. I don't think we ever actually hear a diagnosis that I remember, but she's very clearly mentally disturbed. She's, I think, homeless, she's violent, she's fixated on Christian. So that's not a good situation at all. And so now she's here, she's got a gun on Anna, and so Anna is like trying to talk to her to like, you know, buy herself some time to try and figure out how to disarm her or whatever she's gonna do. My biggest problem that I have right now is that Layla is being characterized as a very like cartoony caricature of a mentally ill person. Like, she talks in this like kind of sing-song way, and she calls Christian master, and you know, which I'm guessing was like her term for him when he was her dom, and now she's, I guess, just like still calling him that. You know, she just speaks in these short little fragmented sentences, and it feels very like, I don't know, I don't want to say like Harley Quinn, but you know, that like the kind of like mentally ill person that you'd see in a cartoon, or you know, just someone written with a very simplistic understanding of what mental illness looks like, and it's just kinda, I'm not cool with that as a mentally ill person. I mean, sure, maybe some mental illnesses manifest this way, I don't know, I'm not an expert on all mental illnesses ever, and you know, even the same diagnosis will manifest differently in different people, so whatever. I'm not saying that this kind of person doesn't exist, but it's really like, especially when you have mentally ill people cast as the villain, this is usually the kind of thing, the kind of manifestation of it that you see. Which brings me to my next point. The fact that she is cast as a villain and as violent because of her mental illness is another trope that we see a lot, and it's overused, and more often than not, it's inaccurate. You know, people who are mentally ill are more likely to be victims of violent crimes by a huge margin than they are to commit violent crimes. And more often than not, any violent tendencies brought about because of our illnesses are gonna be turned inward toward ourselves. Full context, I have anxiety and depression. That's what I mean when I say my mental illnesses, so just FYI. So yeah, not super happy with Layla's characterization so far, suffice it to say. So anyway, so then Layla goes on to say, Master is dark. Master is a dark man, but I love him. And I wish I could believe that this is Layla seeing Christian for the abusive man that he is. But knowing the track record of these books and this narrative, what she means by he is a dark man is probably just the fact that he's kinky. And that makes him dark. And then Anna's reaction is to immediately think, no, he's not. He's not dark, he's a good man, and he's not in the dark. He's joined me in the light. Which again, I can't help but think that he's joined me in the light means he's being vanilla with me and not being kinky. He has left the darkness of kink behind. No. Okay, this just gets weirder and weirder. I don't even know what to do with this right now. So here's the thing. So I don't know if I mentioned this, but I guess Anna was just running into her apartment for a minute or whatever, I think, to unlock it to let Ethan in. And so Christian has, throughout this whole scene so far, has been waiting for her in the car. And so he came in because she was taking so long, and he wanted to like check on her, and he sees Layla, he takes this all in, and then he and Layla just have like this standoff, like they're just standing and staring at each other for a long time. And then Layla like submits a little bit, like she lowers her head, and she like, you know, looks up at him, and he, I guess, takes that cue, and so he takes on his like dominant posture, which I guess kind of makes sense if she's like still fixated on him and is still thinking of herself as his sub, then sure, fine, you know, use that to your advantage to defuse this situation, to see if you can get her to submit to you, which is exactly what Christian does. He like keeps like staring her down until finally he says something to her that Anna can't hear, and she's right back in that submissive mode, and so she like goes down to her knees and drops the gun, and so that Christian can take it from her. Christian's like, go, get out of here, get back into the car, I'll deal with this. And Anna's like, no, I don't want to leave them together. Like, she's jealous of Layla, and she's like trying to like read into Christian's expression when he's looking at Layla, and she's like, I don't know, do I see a little bit of love there? Like, and like, oh my god, here's the thing that I have learned about jealousy. Jealousy in a relationship comes from a place of fear and from a place of mistrust. That is, I think, one of the biggest lessons I have learned so far in my romantic experience in my life, is that if you are jealous of your person being around another person, it usually hints at some sort of you don't trust each other as much as you could, perhaps. Which, you know, in the case of Anna and Christian is not at all surprising because Christian has proved himself to really not be a trustworthy person, violating her trust in all kinds of ways. Just constantly, from day one. I mean, he has not built any kind of framework in which Anna can trust him. And yeah, I guess no wonder she's jealous of him and she doesn't trust him to be alone with one of his exes. Like, I'm gonna check myself. My first reaction when I was reading her jealousy was, oh my god, don't be an idiot. Of course he's not still in love with her. Of course he's not going to leave you for her. But like, honestly, I don't think I can blame her in this case because, yeah. Okay. The fact that he needs to be a dom in order to diffuse this violent situation, like, it's a testament to how far into these books I have immersed myself that it took me this long to be hit by how ridiculous that is, and how, like, where does that happen outside of A, porn, and B, bad fan fiction? This is great. And by great, I mean terrible. So Anna meets up with Ethan in the lobby of the apartment, and they go to a bar across the street because he's like, you look terrible, let's go get a drink. They're like 3 beers in when Dr. Flynn, Christian's therapist, pulls up in front of the apartment building, accompanied by another woman who I'm assuming is some other kind of doctor, I don't know. They all go in to the apartment. They come out a few minutes later. Christian is carrying Layla. Everyone gets into the car and they drive away. And at this point, 2 things that are, I just know it, going to be very, very important later. One, Anna has left her purse in the back of Christian's car, so she doesn't have her purse, and it's maybe she doesn't have her phone on her, I don't know, it's not said specifically, but that would be my guess. And also she sees everyone get into the car and drive away, and she's like, yep, time for something a bit stronger than beer. So she's about to get drunk, and I'm guessing that Christian's not going to be happy about that later. So that's cool. I feel like this is all building up to a huge fight between Christian and Anna. Also, I'm sorry that the lights are flickering. The weather sucks right now, and I live out in the country, so they flicker anytime it like rains or snows or anything. Yep. Cuts to later. Ethan walks Anna back to Christian's apartment, which I guess is not as far away from Anna's apartment as I thought it was. I don't know. Whatever. She gets there. Christian's furious. First thing he says is, "Where the fuck have you been?" I don't know. I mean, obviously, like, the abuse thing is a serious problem, but even all of that aside, like, I'm getting really sick of basically just reading a book about a couple that is in a really unhealthy relationship, and like, it's not interesting. It's not what I want to spend my time reading about, is this couple just bickering and just yelling at each other all the time for chapters on end. I mean, I guess maybe it would be okay if the makeup sex scenes were actually well written, but you know, they're not. So I don't even get that. So it's kind of it just starts to feel pointless. It's like, oh my god, and here's another plot thing, and then there's gonna be another argument, and then it just never ends. Oh yeah, and he's shocked that his adult girlfriend has been drinking after having a gun pointed at her face. Like, hello. I hardly ever drink, but if I had a gun pointed at me and survived, I would probably get drunk too. Oh, oh my god. Layla is in a psychiatric hospital in Fremont. Oh my god, that is not the neighborhood for it. Okay, so for context, Fremont is like the weird, eclectic, artsy neighborhood. Like, the Solstice Parade happens in Fremont, which, if you don't know about the Summer Solstice Parade in Seattle, it's famous for just swarms of people who ride bikes in the parade, entirely naked and wearing only body paint. That is held in Fremont for a reason, because that is the kind of like weird artsy neighborhood that Fremont is. And especially, like, okay, Christian Grey being Christian Grey, he is going to take Layla to the best psychiatric hospital in Seattle, which my guess would be Swedish hospital. They do, as far as I know, have a mental health facility. So that's where he'd probably take her, which that is not anywhere near Fremont. So just, you know, very obvious that E.L. James, honey, you did not do your research properly. Okay, laughing at inadequate research aside, Anna's like all sad and whatever, and Christian's like, what is it? What's wrong? And Anna's like, I can't be everything you need, like, seeing you with Layla. Like, she's basically airing out her insecurities, and Christian's response to this is, why do you do this to me? This is not about you. Which is a bullshit response. That is terrible. That makes me so angry. Like, this is not how you discuss with anyone. Your significant other, your family member, your friend. That's not how you address their insecurities. It's not. She's opening herself up to you. She's telling you her insecurities about this relationship that means so much to both of you. And you're just like scoffing at her. And first of all, making it about you. Her fears, her insecurities are not some like slight against Christian. They're not something that she is doing to him. In that moment, it's not about you. It's not about you being affronted that they would dare to have fears about this relationship. It is about them. The focus needs to be on them and working through their fears and comforting them and just I'm upset. And Christian Grey is a terrible human and a terrible boyfriend and a terrible dom, and he's just like, I just don't understand how so many people are like swooning over him because he's not a good person. Oh boy, oh wow. Okay. So Anna says, she's saying like, I felt the connection that you two had, and Christian's like, what? No, wait, it's not like that. And he reaches for Anna, and her instinct is to step back, which is, once again, that's a sign of abuse. That should, honestly, your instinct when your boyfriend reaches out to touch you should not be to recoil. That is so upsetting to me. And it boggles my mind that people don't see that this is an abusive relationship. I mean, to me, that just seems like the most obvious sign in the world of like, that should make you go, wow, something is wrong here, because like that is not how you should react to someone you love wanting to reach out to you. Like that's not, what the fuck? Okay. And as quickly as the deep wrenching emotions come, they pass away into another fit of, holy shit, this series is ridiculous. So Anna steps back, and somehow that's enough for Christian to interpret it as, holy shit, she's gonna leave me again, which I don't get. This feels very much like really bad writing. Okay, this is where I know the plot is gonna go, so I'm just gonna go ahead and like kind of shove it over there. Who cares if the way my characters are acting is actually, you know, logically going to lead to that. Anyway, so Christian's like, no, don't leave me. Anna is like, she's kind of speechless because like, okay, I would be too, that like a lot of shit has happened to her today, and she's drunk and she's just like, I just need to get out of here. I need space. I need to figure this out. But of course she's not able to articulate any of this. So Christian is like panicking, and I just like, in a move that once again would only really happen in either bad porn or bad fanfiction, which, you know, this is a little bit of both. His reaction is to drop into submissive behavior. He just drops to his knees and sits there waiting for her. Like, he doesn't even say anything, just like stays still. And Anna's like, what the hell are you doing? And like, he doesn't react until she says, Christian, look at me, and then he obeys her command. And I just, that's not how domination and submission works. That's not how real life works. I mean, on some level, being submissive, living my life as a submissive person, I kind of recognize in myself like these little like submissive tics and behaviors that kind of slip into my everyday life. Like, okay, here's kind of a funny little anecdote example. So there's this guy I know who also happens to be a submissive, and so this one time we like met up at this show and we were doing the like, hey, how are ya, hug thing. And okay, one of my submissive things is like, I always let other people initiate hugs, and I let them decide when they're done hugging, because I'm a really cuddly person. I will just like, whatever, as long as I know you enough to trust you not to be creepy, I will just hug you all day long. So anyway, I'm saying hi to this guy, I'm hugging him, and there was this moment where the hug just went on a little bit longer than is like strictly socially acceptable, and I just had this flash of like, holy shit, we're both waiting for the other person to end the hug. Like, that was like one of those moments of like, this is what happens when two subs hug each other. It just never ends because we're both waiting for the other person. So I mean, just like little shit like that just like happens sometimes because like it's just in your personality. Nobody in real life is gonna be like, oh shit, my girlfriend's gonna leave me, I better submit to her. It feels like E.L. James is like treating kink and kinky behavior, like kinky ways of interacting with each other, as like a wolf pack. And so now you have this whole other set of behaviors that like, you know, but that's not how it works. That's not how we work. Especially as someone who is kinky interacting with a vanilla person, like then we're definitely not gonna try to interact with that person on a level of domination or submission, because that's not how the vanilla person's mind works. That's not how they're wired. Kink is there are walls around it in your life, if that makes sense. Like, it's all very much couched in like discussion and boundaries. And I mean, I know there are people who are like lifestyle subs and will weave domination and submission into every aspect of their relationship, but once again, that's only after discussions of that happening and agreeing to, you know, exactly how that's going to look. You have languages and behaviors patterns that you communicate with different people through, you know, in a way that you know they're going to understand. So you don't just like spring submissive behavior on a vanilla person is basically what I'm saying. Like, that is not something that people do. Yes, so that's where this chapter ends. It was a short chapter. I am relieved about that. I don't know about you guys. I didn't do announcements at the beginning of the video. I don't think I have much to say. Decorating the Past, the podcast thing that Lane and I are gonna do about fashion and history, that is still happening. I don't know when is the thing. We're getting it together, but we don't really have any kind of timeline for it right now. I'm like clinking my tea mug, and that's very bad video etiquette. But hopefully eventually it will be released to the public. Okay, that was chapter 13 of 50 Shades Darker. I'm glad we survived that. I hope you are too. I will see you next month. Until then, you know what? Remember, kinky people are just like normal average Joes just like you. We just happen to like getting spanked sometimes. Okay, bye.